The following video has been approved by the JD marketing team. The video has been rated JD. The following video may not be suitable for all viewers. G'day, mate, and welcome to Friday Facts 366. The only way to go fast is to go well, which is the weirdest Friday Facts we've had a long time. But I've got a Mojo here to explain things, right?
Well, I could give you the lowdown on that title, but we probably should get to the body of it and skip that for now. Also, hi.
Hi. We're going to be covering the only way to go fast is to go well many times. It is the catchphrase of today's Friday Facts, definitely. So, it's a Covrex. Covrex is posting this Friday Facts all by himself, which is odd because he doesn't do that many Friday Facts. He does do really important ones occasionally.
Yeah.
But he doesn't do a lot of them. So, hello, long time no see. Obviously, a lot to talk about when it comes to game changes we did recently. There have been a number of tweaks in the game engine over the last 2 months. Yeah.
Bounce?
Bug fixing and things that
Bug fixing
appeared after 1.0. Just little things. So, they're doing things, but they don't want to share any of the things that they're doing yet. So we're going to wait more.
Yeah. That sort of suggests that they're extending the engine to accommodate the DLC, which is supposed to be coming in 6 months' time, isn't it now? It's come down to 6 months.
Well, originally they said they'd post details, because I had to go back and double read it. They originally said they'd post details in about a year. And everybody
it was a year away.
Took that as would see and be able to play, and I'm like, no. They said they'd start posting details. And like Factorio took 7 years to go from early access to final release. So who knows how long before we actually get to buy a DLC and play a DLC. We will see.
Probably be another 7 years.
I hope not. I don't know. Look, Factorio has done very well to stay in early access for 7 years and have people interested in playing the game with their long extended development cycle between updates and everything else. But a lot of that came down to the Friday Facts and weekly Friday Facts. And if they're not doing that, people aren't going to wait 7 years for a DLC. Just saying it. Put it out there. Okay. But this Friday Facts is about a current topic that's very relevant to us, and they can share it without revealing any specific changes to the game. Today's post will be quite technical and related to programming. So if you came for game news, you can safely skip this one. And I can guarantee and tell you that it is all about programming and some of the stuff they're doing behind the scenes.
It is very dense on the programming.
Yes.
There's not a lot of gameplay going on.
Oh yeah. It's all about the program, which is interesting and 50-50. Okay. So Covrex opens by now. There's only developers here. He can share his new discovery of Uncle Bob and his really nice explanation of some of the fundamental principles related to programming and project management and more. Now, Uncle Bob, we're going to touch on this really quickly.
Yeah, because there's going to be before things spread.
Reddit went off the deep end about Uncle Bob. I have never heard of this person before because I'm not a programmer.
Neither have I, actually.
I've done about 2 seconds worth of research and I'm like, okay, I understand why Reddit went off the deep end. He's generally not really a nice person. That's perfectly fine. Covrex is talking about his programming fundamentals, and that's what we're going to be covering. Above and beyond that, I'm not covering it. I'm not bringing it up. I'm not talking about it. But yeah, I think that covers everything. You right, Mojo?
Yeah. That ticks the box. We're going to just narrow the focus down to
just the Friday
programming project management within the Friday Facts.
Yeah. So, Covrex's general thought was they maintain a quality code. They maintain the quality of the Factorio code is quite high, and they have a reasonably good work methodology, but they were victims of selective blindness in many places, actually. And he found it very interesting that some pieces of code were just good from the start and stayed pretty good throughout all the years, even though it was expanded a lot, and some of the code just deteriorated heavily. I can definitely point at fluids. Fluids! And probably trains as well, because trains...
That's another one that did change a lot.
It definitely left the original scope.
Yeah, although I think the original scope was probably a little bit too limited for what it was originally intended to be.
Yeah, it was. There's bits of the Factorio code that definitely need improvements, and this is sort of what this Friday Fact's covering.
Yeah, there's actually some examples further down of the creeping scope, which would cause this issue that he's talking about.
Yeah. And the answer explained with the metaphor of a wax foundation. So, wax foundation goes on to his grandfather was an enthusiastic beekeeper, and he spent his childhood in the garden where you have to be careful where you put down anything, because if you leave something sweet, you'd find out a big pile of bees on top of it quite soon. So Kovacs learned about bees as a childhood, which he hated because he knew he'd never have bees of his own. But his grandfather's right about one thing: everything you learn will be useful to you in one way or another, which I can definitely agree with. There are so many things I've learned over the years.
He's a wise man.
Yeah, there's so many things that I've learned that are just beginning. This is useless. I'm never going to use this. And then it turns out in 10 years or time, it's like, oh crap! I'm really, really glad I paid attention. And then that's come in really handy. So one of the jobs you do around bees is when the honey's taken away from the bees, you put a wax foundation in the hive, which looks like this, which is like hundreds and hundreds of little honeycombs that the bees are going to fill up with new honey. Its primary function is the bees build their tiles evenly and quite fast, because it's very, very easy for them to work on the existing foundation. And this is exactly what happens with code that is good and is expandable, designed to be expandable from the start. On the other hand, if the code is either has a lazy original design, fluids, or was never expected to grow so much in complexity, fluids, and each of the changes were just a small addition to the mess, fluids. Eventually you get used to this, to the idea this part of the code is just hell, fluids, and start making, and that making changes is annoying. Stop fluids mixing. This implies we just don't like that part of the code, but we want to spend as little time possible working with it, fluids, not mixing, because they gave up on that, because now it accidentally will mix if you do things in the right order. As a result, the problem is slowly spiraling out of control. Fluids. Yep, you agree?
I'm detecting, I don't know, I'm detecting some subtext here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're hearing it as well, coming out of the Friday Facts. Library.
So, Kovacs took Uncle Bob's classes and started looking around. He quickly identified several problematic places like this. And it's not a coincidence. These places were eaten away at a very disproportionately large amount of dev time. Not only do they making changes hard, but they're full of regression bugs and generally a never-ending source of problems. Fluids. The beautiful thing Kovacs has about not being a public company, and he's not on the stock market, is he doesn't have shareholders to talk to, which means he can do things like, okay, we're not adding any features for the next 3 months. We are just working on refactoring the code so it makes sense, which is an advantage and a disadvantage.
I kind of argue that statement is true and false. Because a sufficiently big company could probably do that and then say the other thing, or they could spin it as one as the other.
Look, if it depends on how good your PR team is. Yes, you can do anything if you have a very, very good PR team. But he does have a point. Like, they have a reasonably small team, and we have the timeline of lines of code in Factorio. And as you can see, it's a pretty, the graph is not exponentially taking off in any way, shape, or form. But
pretty linear, if anything.
Yeah, it's a very linear code. That's the word I was looking for. And he started off with just himself. Himself and one other, I believe, to start?
Yeah, it was 2 or 3 of them.
I think it was 2, and then they hired... somebody who's still there.
I don't remember if Clonan was there originally or came shortly after.
Clonan came afterwards. I want to say V, but I could be wrong.
I think V came later.
I have a feeling it was Kovacs and Thomas, I want to say, and then Thomas left in the early years.
Yeah, there was someone who left.
Really, really early. Like, before 0.9, 1.0 came out. Look, if you want to know, go read the first 5 Friday Facts. The first Friday Facts were written by that person. That much I remember. So, yeah, the code is very, very linear, but over that time, they've gone from just having Kovacs and maybe one other up to 9 programmers. Actually, I remember the first person they hired was an artist, and I want to say it's V. I want to say, I might be wrong.
Yeah, I might actually be right there.
So yeah, they added more coders, and the speed of progress and the amount of lines of code is not really taking off. Also could means the density code. Whoa, hang on, what? There are 9 programs. Could explain the game is getting bigger and growing a lot of interconnected mechanics, which is true, which also makes it harder to maintain. Or it could also mean that the density of code has improved so much. Both these are not enough to explain why having more programmers doesn't result in faster development. So let's explain a couple of problems they've had and how they proceeded to fix them. The GUI. They wrote a lot about the GUI all the way back in Friday Facts 2.16.
Good old GUI. We always like to hear a lot of stuff about the GUI.
Oh, the GUI has been an ongoing nightmare for them.
Yes.
Yes, and it's one of those things that the scope that they gave it, they exceeded that scope, and obviously it was never designed to exceed the original scope. So they...
wasn't the GUI also originally a like a pre-packaged GUI system that they used?
Yes, it was something that was pre-packaged.
Or was it the underlying system? A GUI, yes, it's in the thing there.
In what thing? In 2.16?
Yeah, in 2.16, a GUI. That's the one.
Yeah, so they had a GUI that did what they needed to up until that point, but they wanted to go further. So they rewrote their own GUI, which is great, and it has definitely improved the game a lot. The catch is, GUIs are a pain in the ass, and anybody who deals with GUIs or UXI, that's right?
Something like that.
Yeah, user interaction something. I can't remember what it stands for. Know that GUIs suck. And just dealing with them sucks. Yes.
Kivy is the bane of my existence right now.
Okay. The common takeaway for the Friday Facts of coding was, we always underestimate how complicated GUI logic, styles, and layouts can become. This implies that GUI, improving the way the GUI is written, has large potential gains. We're happy with the way the GUI objects are structured and laid out since the 0.17 update, but code-wise, it still feels much more bloated than it should be. The main problem with the amount of places you need to do touch to add some interactive development. Let's show an example with a simple button used to reset presets in the map generator window. So we have a class map generator GUI. We had a button object, which is icon button, reset press button. In the constructor map generator, we need to construct the button with the parameters. We need to register as listener for that button, which is another line of code. Then we need to override the method for the action listener in our map generator class, so we can listen to the click actions, which is another line of code. And then finally
there's that AGUI again.
Yeah, there, you're right. AGUI. And then we can implement the method where we if else through the elements we care about through the actual logic, which is a lot. So yes, it's way too much boilerplate for one button and one simple action. So it is way too much code and effort to just put a button in. We had over 500 places where we registered action listeners on the code. So imagine the amount of bloat. We kind of noticed that when we used lambdas, I don't know, to signal callbacks and similar things in the GUI, this tends to be much more pleasant to use. So what if we made it the primary way of doing the GUI? So they decided to completely rewrite the way it works. So instead of adding again, this is the GUI. I think it's at least the third rewrite.
That we know about. We don't know about any internal ones that may or may not have happened.
True. So instead of adding listeners and filtering out the event catching function, we just specify boom button, which is a big improvement already, as adding and maintaining the new logic only requires you look at one place instead of several. Yeah, which makes it easier to read for the human, because computers don't care how it's written, they'll read it no matter what, but at the end of the day, a human needs to be able to read it, and they need to be able to understand it. Rewriting all the GUI internals again was a big task, but it really felt like it was worth it, and I can't imagine how we could start doing it the old way. It also resulted in several thousands lines of code being removed. And then we have that tagline: the only way to go fast is to go well. And then manual building.
Too well, almost.
Manual building is special.
It's yeah. Yeah.
It is a large part of Factorio, okay? Whether you like it or not, as far as the game engine is concerned, it is very, very big and very, very complicated. So they have several main goals to pursue when you try and make the code cleaner. Removing code duplication is the first and biggest priority. It is reasonable, easy to solve when the code isn't structured well, functions are too long, names are weird, but if you have 5 versions of the same pile of code with slight changes here and there, it is the worst beast. It's just a question of time until bug fixes changes are only applied to some variants and become less and less obvious whether the differences between the variants are intended or circumstantial. The manual building logic is a monster because of all the things it supports already. So we go through the list. You've got upgrading belts from color to color. We have placing things. We have powering up things. We have fast replace of of belts into splitters.
Belts into splitters into fast corners.
Oh yeah, good old fast corners. We have replacing ghosts. We have click and drag power poles, which, oh my god, I so wish that was part of Dyson's Sphere. We have fast upgrade undergrounds. We have moving trains from track to track and rotation.
The snapping.
The snapping. Actually, that's what that is.
The snapping and locking.
Yeah.
Not only is it snapping to the track, but it's also snapping to the station grid.
Yeah. Then we have fast upgrading of just belts. What's the next one? Oh, placing gates. Gates get special treatment over train tracks. The next one is fast replacing belts with undergrounds.
Yep, and deleting the elements in between.
Yep, and then we have going the reverse, so removing the undergrounds for belts. We have rotating belts now with bots, because that's awesome.
Yep, ghosting the backwards direction.
Yep, and then we have the fast underground, I guess you could call it, where you just click and drag.
Yeah. The lazy underground, you click and drag and it figures it all out for you.
Yeah. The
recent edition.
Yeah, the game will give you spaghetti because you asked for it method. And then the linking undergrounds one to another. And that's not all of it. Like, there is a lot more that the internal game engine does when just manually placing things. Oh boy. Then all this logic needs to be multiplied by 2 when you're lazy and copy-paste. So you can have normal buildings and ghost building. And then you need to multiply this whole code abomination by 2 again. Why? Because you also need to do all this logic in latency hiding mode. Sounds bad already, but it isn't all of it. Since the logic was continuously being patched and touched by different people throughout history, the core of the code was crazy long method, with the code looking like the horizon mentioned by Uncle Bob. Then you need to change something. Especially you take into consideration the code naturally had many corner cases wrong or fixed only in some variants of the code, like the bug I recently found where if you put down a power pole, then a ghosted power pole, then a real power pole right beside it, the power line would go from the real power pole to the ghosted power pole to the real power pole, but it's a ghost power line because it's going through a ghost power pole, therefore things didn't power up, which was fixed 3 days ago, I think, because it was fixed obviously in one variant, but not all the variants. Yeah, super
that
annoying.
was the one that would. Was that the one where you would get random? The end result was power connections that wouldn't actually connect.
Correct. Everything would have that blue aura around it, and it would look like it was powered, but the inserters and machines would be flashing saying, "I don't have power," because they're being powered by a ghost power pole. Because they had tied themselves to a ghost power pole when there's potentially a real power pole right beside them that has power, but they'd tied themselves to the ghost power pole. Yup. So, long story short, Kovacs approached this like a hobby side project of his, which took weeks to finish, but in the end, all the duplicates were merged. The code is well structured and fully tested. Managing the code requires a small fraction of the time compared to the previous state, because the reader is not required to reach a huge pile of code just to get the big picture and to be able to change everything. So, massive difference. And then we have again, the only way to go fast is to go well. So, GUI tests. So, they do cover that Woob has been very, very big on automated tests.
Yes.
All the way back in Friday Facts 29. Yep,
way back at the beginning. I can remember a Friday Facts. I hadn't actually opened these, so I need to skim one very quickly. which has a little time lapse of one of the automated tests they do. I think it was around version 15 or 16.
Yeah, it has the screen split into like 12 different copies of Factorio running the tests at the same time. I
Something
remember
like that, yeah.
Yeah, I remember that Friday Facts. I'm gonna go with like 200 and earlys, 20s ish, roughly.
It is actually the third one, the 288.
Oh, it is the third one. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
This
This isn't even
page
the
is
only
missing.
time I've seen it, because I've seen others before that
Okay.
doing automated tests
So
to prove functionality of items and things.
this is another
the game.
common thing that we've found through this Friday Facts. Things are broken in this Friday Facts. No, it is not 288. Oh, it is 288. Yes.
Yeah, the third link.
Yes. Yeah, there you go. 4x4, 16. 16 versions of Factorio, all loading at the same time, doing automated tests. Yes, and the engine just auto reboots after completing the test and opens back up and completes the next test. Poor computer. Poor computer.
Why they have i9s? Or at
Yes,
least
yes.
A few years ago, it's why they got i9s.
They bought very, very expensive computers to do some of these tests in a timely fashion. So yes, and yeah, we've got all sorts of broken links through this Friday Facts. It's really weird. Like I just tried to click to go to 288. Yeah, that link is so broken. The link to go to the forums is broken. Link to Reddit worked. We can see that by the crap that went on in Reddit. Yes. So yeah, they continually try to raise the bar of code areas that are covered by tests, and this let us cover another area, the GUI. This has been an issue for them in the past because they have put out updates that have failed because of put out a release that has failed because of some minor GUI problems that they just didn't have automatic tests for. So yes,
well, the real question that came to my mind, or the other question that came to mind, is there an automated test to make sure train signals work?
There is now because they released an update where none of the signals worked.
Or the signals that were working stopped working.
Every single signal in the game was green at all times.
Yes.
It was fine as long as you didn't load a save that involved trains. If you did, bad things would happen.
Bad things would happen, but also really nice fireworks.
Yeah. And there'd be one train to rule them all wandering around your base. So they have a mode in which the testing environment created the GUI, even when the tests are run without graphics. That's one thing they have done with their test environment. It generally runs without graphics. So declared some helper methods that allowed a very simple definition of where we want the cursor to move, and we want to click like this. The clicking method is called low-level events of input, so all layers of event processing and GUI logic are tested. The example of an end-to-end test, in which is a controversial topic because some schools of test methodology say that everything should be tested separately. So in this case, we should theoretically test not only the clicking the button first, which creates an input action to be processed, and then have an independent test of the input action working properly. I like this approach in some cases, but most of the time I really like that I can penetrate all layers of logic with only a few lines of code. More on the test dependencies part, which we'll get to in a second. But yes, and then we have that catchphrase again. Test-driven development, which I don't know about.
I don't know much about that either. I mean,
So
the whole idea of testing and validation, code validation within programming is a monstrous subject in its own right.
it is. So the idea of this, to boil it down to make it really, really simple, and it's something that Kovarex admits here that he struggled with, is rather than writing a bit of code and then writing a test that tests that bit of code, you're writing a test to test that your code works before you actually write the code. So then you're writing the code to satisfy the test, which is an ass-backward way of doing it, but it means when you're going through the testing process, you're stopping and actually thinking, okay, what do I need to do, and how do I need to do it? And then you're actually getting to the programming stage where you've just gone through mentally that whole process, rather than putting pen to paper, so to speak, and writing it all out to get halfway through and go, shit, I didn't think about that. I can add this quick hack on top, and that should work 95%.
It plugs the holes for those quick hacks and backpedaling on yourself.
Yeah. So yes, at first he wasn't for it, but then he had an aha moment and realized what it is, and now he's an instant fan. So he's putting a lot of effort to try and follow the test-driven development method as much as possible and force it on others on the team as well. It feels slower to write tests, even for a simple piece of logic that are just bound to be right, but the tests proved me wrong several times already and prevented annoying low-level debugging sessions in the near future. So, pros and cons, pros and cons. But then
Very much so. Also, can I just add, that isn't the most underrated sentence there, to force that onto the other team members as well.
Yeah, well, look, when you're the owner of the business, you can do a lot of forcing it onto other team members. Like, we're going to do things this way. Yes.
With an iron fist and a glove slap.
Yeah. Look, it's true.
And the B-52s made a song about that.
Yeah, they did. Look, it's one of the things you can do in a small business, and look, even if there was pushback, I imagine, in an ideal world, that people would come to some sort of agreement where, things are done mostly the way people want. Like, I don't know. So test dependencies, which is continued from above. So, if tests should be truly independent, test C should have some mocks of A and B, so test C is independent of the system A and B working together. The consensus seems to be that this leads to more independent design. Aha.
They need a bigger headache.
So
to try and think about this stuff.
Yes, so let's say we have a test of electric poles connecting properly on the map. But I can hardly test if I don't know that searching for entities on the map works properly. So his conclusion is having dependencies like this is fine as long as the dependencies are also tested. But the problem comes when you break something, a lot of tests start to fail suddenly. This is why having independent testing means you go, okay, that's the part that failed, that's where I need to fix, rather than 15 steps above, the whole test failed and you've got 53 different rabbit holes you need to stick your nose into. So yes, so it isn't always an option to do a test for every single item, especially when you factor. So when they refactor some internal structure, they tend to expect to break a lot of stuff, and you have to fix them step by step, so it can compile again. So the goal was pretty easy. He wanted to be given the most simple foul case of his change. So he made a simple dependency test system. The tests are executed in a listed way. So they go through A, B, C, D, and then hopefully, if he's written the test in the right order, it'll fail at the lowest point where he's screwed up the code. In theory. So when you do a high-level system, you know everything below it is working correctly. He tried to search if others use dependencies as well and how they do it, and surprisingly, he didn't find anything. This example of test dependency graph related to electric poles. So we have...
it's one hell of a dependency graph.
It is one hell of a dependency graph. It relies on the entity connector, the entity, the electric pole, which has to rely on both of those, the ghost, which has to rely on that one, so on and so forth. But it does mean, in theory, if you test something at the high level, in theory, you've automatically tested, like, at least 4 levels deep underneath.
Yeah, potentially everything underneath it as well.
Yeah, so in theory, like, you'll probably find an edge case where things break, but in theory it's tested. And look, we've seen Woob. They've been very, very successful at making a game, testing it thoroughly, and pushing out a 1.0 release with... what was it, like 100 bugs? Less than 100 bugs? 20 bugs left on the 1.0 release schedule? And I'm like, we were both shocked that the game came out with 100 bugs, which to us seems perfectly fine because we've both dealt with, games. Did you play Evil Genius 2?
Yes, I did.
Yes, that went straight into final release, in theory 1.0, and had so many bugs in it, it was a nightmare. So
it was also very easy to soft lock the progression.
Oh yes. I played an early access pre-alpha game that was harder to soft lock than Evil Genius 2. Yes. Okay, so he built and used this structure when refactoring away the duplication of Ghost real poles connection logic, and slowly sped up the process of making it work properly. Confident this way to structure tests for us in the foreseeable future. Not only it makes test results more useful, but it also forces us to split test suites into smaller, non-specialized units will certainly help as well. and then that catchphrase. So test coverage. When Boss Kid joined the team as a QA guy, one of the main roles was making sure that he discovered that any discovered bug is first covered by a test before it actually gets fixed. So hopefully Boss Kid doesn't find the bug ever again. Trying to put the QA guy out of a job. That is his whole purpose. So, and also meant they were testing their improving their test code coverage. This makes releases much more confident. We had less regression bugs, which directly translates into long-term efficiency. I strongly believe this clearly indicates and supports what Uncle Bob is saying. Work with tests feels slower, but it's actually faster. And then he threw together this testing system. Because it was the easiest way he could get it up and running, and then ran a test, and we can see we have a return false there. So if electric container is connected and target pole electric container, that test failed, which also meant the next test in the queue also failed. So in theory it works, and in theory it's going to be very, very quick to test things in the future. So yes, both the conditional commands are not. The first one is the first one fails, and then the conditional commands are not triggering the test. It basically means either code just isn't tested, or it should be covered, or is dead code, and so it should be removed. He's quite confident again that users can help us write a lot of clean, high quality code, and then we have that catchphrase again twice. And then this is what I get with this Friday Facts. We get all the way to the end, and it feels like there's a job. It's all for you should go apply to have a job at Whoop, because they posted some time ago a position for a C++. I want to say, yeah, C++ programmer full time.
C++ programmer. Are they still looking for a Mac programmer?
It doesn't say so I'm assuming they either got a Mac programmer or they gave up, although Macs have gone on to the M1 chip, and who knows, so maybe they've just decided Mac is not something they want to deal with anymore. I don't know. I don't deal with Macs, because Macs are special. And every Mac commenter, every Mac viewer out there knows that Macs are special. Macs are special, and they can agree with me.
They are very special snowflakes, aren't they?
The PC or the user. And so they're still looking for a C++ programmer full time. Now it's funny because like the amount of people that play Factorio that would love to work at Woob and have said that many times. As far as I know, this is the same job position that's been there for a few months. So
yeah.
So yeah, this has been an interesting Friday Facts. The Discuss in our forums link is broken. The Discuss on Reddit definitely works. The subscribe by email, I don't even know.
Who even does that?
Well,
what is this, the 90s? Also, are you sure it's not just you? Because it works for me.
I have an old page on my screen from last night that has typos in it still. So maybe it's been fixed since. Yes. Uncle Bob's video links to Utility Coin.
The channel is called Utility Coin, but within that there's some random videos, and then Uncle Bob. It's just like this. It's just this totally random channel.
Yeah, and then the Friday Facts was originally posted on a Thursday. It originally came out on the 27th of May 2021, which was a Thursday, and then was edited to come out today. So yeah, it's yes to today's day.
Within the last 24 hours.
Yes, it's the weirdest Friday Facts we've had in a long time. Yeah, it's I don't know where to go with this one.
I've been reading through the links and all this test-driven development stuff, and I got curious because way back in the day, I remember unit tests was a buzzword. It was like everything you do, you should have a unit test for.
Yep.
And from what I can tell, test-driven development is essentially unit testing.
Yes, I believe so. So unit testing is something I even remember, and I've really, really not touched on programming at all in my life because I can't stand it. And yeah, unit testing is literally breaking everything down into the smallest unit and then testing that unit.
Yeah.
and rinse and repeat. And if you do the tests well and you cover your bases with them, you can run an automated test suite, and it will test every part of your program and confirm that it all works. And it sounds like Uncle Bob has just said essentially that. Make sure that you.
Yeah, that's basically what he's going on about, is the nuances of unit testing.
Yeah, and maybe he expanded that to write the test first and then write the code, which sounds ass backwards, but at the end of the day, look, I fully agree with. If you spend the time working out what you need to do and then write a test to confirm that it's going to do exactly what you want it to do, you've gone through the mental process once of what you want something to do, and then you actually go through the process of actually running the code. Like at the moment, I'm doing a Dyson Sphere series, but I'm playing it first on Twitch, and that gives me a good idea and a guideline of what I'm going to be doing over the next couple of days, for my YouTube videos, because I've gone through the process once. I know roughly how long things are going to take, and it helps me plan out the videos a little bit better because I'm going through the process once already. I've actually got a rough guideline of what's going to happen in every video this week because I've been through it once and I've stopped and I've thought about it rather than trying to hit the record button and go from there. So
wing it.
Yeah, look, I can do that with Factorio. I've got more than enough experience, and that's how Factorio is. But other games, it helps to either go through it once already, or write a script, or make a plan. It depends. And programming, like I said, I'm not an expert. I hate the stuff, but
Certainly, from my experience, if you know if you have some idea of what your end, or some framework of what your end goals is, it helps to write the stuff in between rather than building it from the ground up, where you don't have a clear idea of what your endpoint is.
the catch is with trains or fluids, they knew what the endpoint was when they first developed it, and then come 7 years later, it's 4 or 5 times what that original end goal was, and I think that's coming back to haunt them repeatedly.
Yeah.
We saw that through 15, 16, 17, so on and so forth. There were some major fundamental changes to the way the game worked from 15 through to 1.
Yeah, there's some huge changes from even 17 to 1.0.
Well, 14 we got rid of purple science from biters. And
Yeah, the eliminated from having to farm biters.
Yeah, and then
We also got rid of the blue map.
The blue
and
map.
purple. Everything was a shade of blue.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. With the it was like bad night vision.
Yeah, it was horrible. You couldn't
Yeah.
read anything. It was all there was red as well, but it was horrific.
Oh, yeah. All the buildings of the minimap were just a solid blue. I remember.
Yeah, every building was a
Although,
blue.
that
Something and this
changed.
builds were like a light blue.
Didn't that change later than that?
No, 15. 15 introduced the new colors, and then they've been tweaking the colors ever since. Because there was a period when stone was the same color as desert, so you couldn't find stone patches on desert.
It's still hard to find sometimes.
But yeah, it's still hard, but it's a lot better. It was the same color.
But yeah, 15 had some big changes. 16 was when we introduced infinite science, or was that 15?
15 was the science revolution.
Okay, then 16 we changed the recipes in science.
Yep,
once.
we made them cheaper.
And then
Again.
17 we changed the recipes again, or somewhere between 16
Again.
and 17 we changed them again.
Yeah, between 16 and 17, there was also an oil recipe change.
We multiplied everything by a factor of 10.
Was that one, or had that already been
I
done?
have no idea. I have no idea.
I can't remember if that actually happened earlier, but then there was another. It was 40 heavy oil and it went down, or 40 heavy oil and went down to 10 or something.
I don't remember that. It would have changed all the ratios on the refineries.
Yeah, it changed all the ratios because the what was it? Five refineries.
517 rings a bell.
Yeah, it was 517, and it changed from that. Or it was 516 or something, and it changed.
Yeah, so Factorio has multiple times gone through big swings in the direction of the game, and I guarantee you, when they were back at version 9 and we had red, green, I don't even know how we had blue at version 9
blue.
through to 12.
Yeah, blue.
And then purple. So that was it. That was the 4 science packs.
Steel, red circuits, filter inserters, and
No,
batteries.
excuse me. Smart inserters.
sorry, for smart inserters. Yes, you're right. And then it became filter inserters.
Smart inserters you had to hook a wire into, and they were the only ones that accepted wires
Yes,
to do things.
you're right.
And blueprints. Blueprints was another one. Blueprints required a red circuit to craft, and then if you wanted to wipe the blueprint, they required a green circuit to wipe.
Yes.
There was no copy and paste.
So you needed to carry
undo.
a separate set of circuits just to manage your blueprints.
Yes.
You also had no library, so it was one and done.
Library. Yeah. Like Factorio has changed a lot over the years, and the fact that they're refactoring the code, going through cleaning it up, it's a great idea. It's something I think a lot of developers, if they want to continue the game after 1.0, it's something that they probably should look at doing, depending on how far they want to go. If they want to release DLCs and all sorts of things, it probably needs to be done. It's probably another reason why games like Civilization 1 through to 43 that they're up to now succeed so well, because every 2 years or so they go, this is our game idea, we already know it's going to look like the last one plus this and this, and they start rewriting the code from scratch.
I agree with Civilization. It's sort of stalled out at 6. It's just they're now just doing DLC for it instead.
Yeah, because
so you get even more Civilizations than ever before.
There's only so much
game.
Civilization sequels you can do.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's 6 plus a couple of spin-offs. It's like 7 or 8. Anyway, that's it from this Friday Facts. We will see you for the next Friday Facts. I don't know when that is going to be. It's been like 2 months since the last one.
This was like 2 months.
So we'll see you guys for the next one. It's a weird ride. We're waiting to hear about what's coming. We've seen some hires. They've hired Arendelle, which we covered last time, and they've also hired... Come on, Mojo, help me out.
Yes, they hired him right away, and he's been very busy doing the good work.
No, they hired somebody else. About us. They hired another one of the developers. Another one of the mod developers, and I cannot remember who.
I can't remember either.
Yeah, none of those ring a bell. Okay, no, they hired another. Was it just on my screen? No, I see Aaron.
You got to Google it now. You got to find out.
No, it's not going to come.
No. Actually, no. You know what's going to happen is people have to tell you down below.
Tell me in the comments. Yes, tell me in the comments. I know they hired 2 people. They hired 2 modders, and I can't remember what the other modder's known for. Theranos. I wanna say likes to work on mods and proficient on Discord. Loves to cook and grill. I wanna say it's Theranos. I want to say it's him. Anyway, I might be right, I might be wrong. Down in the comment section, we'll know for sure. Anyway, that's it. We're out. Thank you for coming and watching another Friday Facts with myself and Mojo. All right, bye.
Bye-bye.